What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Guys, we got an interesting one here. Found this video, Australian or overseas students Australia or something like that. That's what the channel calls, so y'all make sure y'all give them a follow. Look like they got some interesting stuff on this channel, and we here starting with Australian workplace culture explained. So always here, I've seen plenty of videos to see that, you know, the pay is good, it's expensive, these different things are, you know, and people just love working in Australia as well. So we finna see the culture explained properly, the salaries explained, and all those things. You know, maybe I need a remote job in Australia or something like that. You know, that'll definitely give me access to get there and back. You know, but finna check this out. Y'all hit that subscribe button. And if y'all got some experience in your work culture, hey, let me know as well. That'd be cool. Cause I know my work culture. You know, before we get started, a little bit of my work culture. My last job before I went full-time entrepreneur, it was great. It was stuff, you know, that I always wanted to do. And, you know, talk, help people, and all those different things. So, and that was probably the best job I had out of my years of working since 18. So shout out to my last job, you know, helping the youth. I like that stuff. But let's see what we got here with overseas.
If you are coming to study
students
or work in Australia, you will find that Australian workplace culture is quite different than your home country. Would you like to know what's the difference? So in this video, we are going to talk about Australian workplace culture and some other work requirements. So make sure to stick around till the end. And at the end of the video, I'll also give you my personal experience after working here in Australia for more than 16 years. So without wasting a single minute, let's get started with today's topic. So the first thing first, let's talk about the work hours in Australia. Now, work hours will vary depending upon the arrangements you have with your employer and the industry you are working in as well. Most of the full-time workers are expected to work around 38 hours per week, but sometimes you could be asked for additional overtime work hours as well. Usually you're expected to get paid for those additional hours. But if we are generally talking about office hours, it's between 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. from Monday to Friday. Weekends are usually off for the office workers. However, some businesses may open till late, like hospitality venues. So typically bars, pubs, restaurants, cafes can be open till late night as well. And they tend to start anywhere from 5 p.m. onwards till 10 p.m. Obviously, some workplaces go for overnight work as well, which means that you could be...
So the typical work schedule, I just think, I mean, a 9 to 5, it's not bad. Depending, like, if the work culture, the job, everything is good, a 9 to 5 is not bad. I think probably since COVID, that's probably been a big deal for people, you know, losing jobs and stuff. Could have been a problem. Could have been business, TikTok and all that stuff, telling people, you know, to start their business type of thing. So, but 9 to 5, if it's a great job, those are not bad hours, especially if the pay makes sense.
Be working late night, early morning as well. In one of the...
And then he mentioned, I forgot, he mentioned overtime. I remember working and I had to finish some stuff at home and wasn't getting paid for that. So that's why it's important to leave your work at work and tend to home at home.
Previous workplaces I worked in, I used to do a night shift which started at 10 p.m. and used to finish at 6 a.m. in the morning. So the hours of work will clearly vary depending upon the industry and the type of job you're doing. And while working, you usually get breaks as well. So if you are working for, let's say, 4 hours, you could be getting a 15-minute break. If you're working for, let's say, 7 hours, then you could be getting a couple of breaks, maybe one for 15 minutes and other one for half an hour or so. And if you're working even longer, then you tend to get even longer breaks. Now, usually the break...
I wonder what's the law on that, because I know with ours, if we work in 8 hours, as long as you work 8-hour shifts or something like that, you're guaranteed to get a lunch. But if you work less than 8-hour shifts, you're not. I don't think you can have a lunch. You can have breaks, but you can't have a lunch. I learned that working in a restaurant, because I'm like, dang, when do we get a lunch break? They're like, no, you just get a break. You don't get a lunch break because you don't work that many hours.
Breaks are dictated by the Fair Work Act, which gives a complete guide regarding your breaks during your work hours. Now let's move to the second part, which is about your salary. So Australian workplaces are expected to usually pay you a minimum wage set out by the Fair Work Australia. Fair Work Australia is a body that looks after workplaces here in Australia, making sure that the workplaces are treating their employees fairly. That usually includes your work rights, rights and your pay rates. Now, as I just mentioned, that there is a minimum wage set out by the Fair Work Australia. Now, this minimum wage rate get reviewed every single year, and usually it gets updated on the 1st of July every single year. That's when the financial year starts in Australia. At the time of shooting this video, the current minimum wage is $21.38, and this is the minimum wage from the 1st of July 2022 to 30th of June 2023. From 1st of July 2023, it is expected that there will be a new minimum wage. So employers are expected to pay at least a minimum wage when hiring you for doing your job. So obviously, if you're working late night or you're doing overtime, you could be getting a penalty rates as well, which is like your overtime rates. And if you're working on public holiday or over the weekends, then you even get higher wage rate as well. Now let's talk about the communication style in the Australian workplaces. So when you will be working in Australia, you will be seeing that most of the time the employers use direct communication, which means if someone has to say something to you, they would rather say to you directly. So whenever you have anything to ask or clarify, you can go directly to the person.
I like that. It can be nervous, because I remember the time, I think my last supervisor, she was more that type of person too. She was direct communication, and it just nervous. I don't know. Maybe it was just me. Always nervous when talking to the supervisor, because you don't know what to expect.
And
you be thinking you're in trouble
about the issue. And Australians are usually very friendly, honest, and open people, and they expect similar sort of thing from you when you're working here as well. In quite common in their communication, you will see them using slangs at the workplaces also. As you know, Australians like to abbreviate everything, so they will try to use their slangs during the work hours as well, which makes sometimes things very interesting, especially if you don't understand things. And if that's the case, don't hesitate to ask back again. Now, Australians are also known for their humor as well. Australians tend to make jokes and have a bit of fun during their work hours, which can be quite difficult for some people to adjust when they're coming here for the first time. And apart from direct communication, Australians also prefer to have a clear and concise messaging, which means that they try to keep the things as brief as possible and making sure that it's clear enough for the person to understand. So no going around in circles. Now let's talk about the Australian workplace hierarchy. Typically, the Australian workplaces are less formal in their hierarchy. A lot of times you could see a horizontal sort of hierarchy as well, where there may not be lots of layers of management, supervisors, and so on. Obviously, some places may have this sort of structures as well, but a lot of them are moving toward a flat or a horizontal sort of hierarchy, which means teamwork and collaboration is highly encouraged. Which means if you have any question or if you want to provide any inputs regarding anything in the workplace, you can provide that freely. And one of the things you will notice also at Australian workplaces that people are very respectful toward each other. It doesn't matter which country, culture, or background people come from, everyone is equally treated. The next thing we're gonna talk.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense. Then people won't feel like they have so much pressure on them, especially as I just mentioned, talking to the supervisor. Most time, especially when they call you out the blue, you just think you're in trouble. But rather than, it makes the team meetings more beneficial, knowing that everybody is equal and nobody, you just have that one person that's your supervisor above the all, Even though, like I said, my last supervisor was probably the best supervisor I had, very laid back. She was a great person. But that don't happen too often,
Talk about social norms.
Everybody might not have that.
This is one of the most interesting part of the video for sure. Let's start talking about Australian workplace diversity. As you know, Australia is a multicultural country with 1 in 4 Australian born overseas or their family born overseas, which makes our Australian workplaces diverse and very multicultural. You will be working with people from all different sort of backgrounds, genders, races, religions, cultures, and so on. So it's quite common that when you come to Australia, you will be working with people from all different type of backgrounds. Now, when it comes to greeting someone, Australians like to do a firm handshake. So make sure when you're meeting someone, you look into the eyes and have a firm handshake. And eye contact is very important thing in Australian workplace culture as well. Now, when speaking with someone, usually we try to call them by their first name. So whether it's your supervisor, boss, manager, usually you call them by their first name. That doesn't mean that you're disrespecting someone. It is just a common thing to do here in Australia. One of the important things for the Australian workplaces is the punctuality, which means you need to be on time when you're starting your work, and usually you finish on time as well. So if your starting time is at 9 o'clock, you're expected to start work by 9, and if it's 5 o'clock finish, means you finish at 5, unless obviously you're asked to stay back, and in that case you usually get paid extra money for that. Next thing is the dress code. So
is that in every case? If you have to work over your hours, you just get paid for that? Because I know me being a salary worker, Like, we just put in that same time, you know, we got what we got based on our salaries. It wasn't no overtime or nothing.
To usually wear a formal dress as per the requirement of the organization. Sometimes businesses may have their own specific dress. For example, if you're working for any major retail supermarket here, you will see that you'll have to wear the specific shirt and a black pant and a formal shoes with that. But if you are working in an office environment, you're expected to dress professionally, at least a shirt, pant, formal shoes, and if you can wear a suit and a tie, that's even better. And for females as well, it's expected that they wear formal dresses, business to work attire as well. But sometimes a semi-casual dresses are also acceptable in certain workplaces for both males and females. Now, one of the important things that Australians really like to do usually is to socialize after work. So people tend to go for a drink or even catch up during the lunchtime with their co-workers. It's just an Australian thing to do that. And if you're living in a city like Melbourne, where coffee culture is such a big thing, you could be even going out for a coffee.
See, I've been practicing getting ready to travel and stuff because I don't drink coffee. And I had me a mocha latte. I don't even know what it's called. A latte. And, you know, it was all right. And I don't even drink coffee like that. I think it's, what was it? White mocha? White chocolate mocha or something like that.
With your workmates. Now, one of the
I'm not a coffee drinker.
I want to give most of you is that if you are going to work in a workplace where you have a co-workers from your home country as well, let's say you come from India and your co-workers are also Indian, try not to speak any other language than English with them at the workplace. Especially if you are working with people from different countries, because they may not understand your language and sometimes it can offend people, as they might think that you're talking bad about them. Now,
I tell you, that's everywhere.
That's everywhere. Issues. So any sort of discrimination, harassment, or bullying is not acceptable in Australia. So that's why it's important that when you are speaking with someone, you have to be very respectful. Understand that people come from different backgrounds, cultures, races, religion, gender, and so on. So make sure you treat everyone fairly and equally. And you can expect the same from them as well. That is why it's such an important thing to know about your work rights in Australia. If you have any sort of workplace issue, reach out to management.
I need to check that out and see all the work rights in Australia. Because I feel like here in the States, the work rights, I said it in another video because they lied to us. I was talking about salaries, because usually your supervisor or somebody, they tell you never talk about your salary to your other coworkers. You know, you're not supposed to do. You know, they never really just showed us like the law that says you can't. Come to find out, you know, went on the handy dandy TikTok scrolling, and somebody said your employer, like, you can discuss your salary with the other employees, because firstly, if you're doing the same job as somebody else and they're getting paid more, you have a right to go talk, you know, but they try to tell you that, so, you know, try to make it seem like, you know, I guess not start no confusion type. But I never knew that, because every time they say don't talk about your salary to other employees and stuff like that, I always thought it was a law. Come to find out, it really is not, you know, so.
Regarding
it's just crazy what they lie about if you don't know the rules.
But if they can't help you much, then you can obviously look to get some external help from organizations like Fair Work Australia. So we actually got a video regarding discrimination at workplaces for international students as well. If you want to watch that, we'll leave the link of that in the description for you. Now, before we end this video, a quick personal opinion about Australian workplace culture from someone who has been working here for more than 16 years. And that's me. Overall, my personal experience in most of the Australian workplaces has been great. Usually people are very respectful. There is no such discrimination at workplaces. People treat you here very fairly and you do the same back to them as well. Nice. Obviously there can be little incidents at workplaces at times, which could include issues with your co-workers or issues with your pay rates and so on. But usually you can talk about these issues with your senior management and get that sorted as well. As I said, personally I haven't come across a lot of difficulties in regards to working here in Australia. People have been generally very nice to me in my work life.
That's good.
Really happy and thankful about it. And the workplaces are usually very friendly and less formal here. So you tend to make lots of friends in your working life here, especially from different parts of the world. And that's the beauty of working here in Australia. Now, that was my personal experience and everything about the Australian workplace culture. I hope you find the information useful. If you are already working in Australia, we would love to hear from you and your thoughts on Australian workplace culture as well. How long you have been working working, and what sort of experience do you have regarding work in Australia? Please leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you're a new student coming to Australia, I highly recommend you to download our Overseas Students Guide. The
Oh wow,
2023
they got a
version is
guide?
out, so make sure to download from the link in the description. If you have any question, please leave it in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, thank you for watching. See you in the next one.
This was good. This was good. I guess the next question for me would be, what's the best city to work in? You know, on top of money, but the best city to work in brings the. I guess that would be something. I think that would be by experience and stuff. Cause I worked in my town. I worked in another town. I worked in like 3-4 towns, maybe in my lifetime of working, and they all had their ups and downs. It really just depends. You know, the benefit of working in my town was it's down the street and not far. The best job, highest paid job I had to drive an hour to work when I had to, but it was caused me to travel to other different places as well. So, but I guess that just depends. But yeah, that would be nice to know what city would be the best. And really, I mean, bigger cities probably gonna have the best opportunity, you know, more money and all those things like that anyways. But this was good. Glad I got to see this, man. It's important to know your workers' rights. You know, anywhere. It seemed more Australia, more laid back, more chill, more equal than here for sure. So I know the culture is here. It really depends on where you work, but that's why it's important. You know, important where you work, what you go to school studying for. 'Cause I'm sure this is talking to students that are going to Australia. So, but students is important. Get that internship too. Wherever you want to work, wherever you see yourself working at, get that internship first. That's why I didn't learn until like my senior year. Something they should have told me my freshman year. Get your internship at the company you want to be at. 'Cause the internship going to help you because they're looking for experience. But that's all I have. Y'all hit that subscribe button. Like I said, let me know your thoughts about the workplace culture. Anywhere, you know, if you're from Australia, from Europe, somewhere in Europe, or somewhere here in America, let me know. That's all I have. Y'all be blessed, be the best, and be you. I'm out.